Congratulations on finishing your course. That was some hard work. Now what do I do with it? Is there anyone that will house my course and help me sell it? What if I can get an entire team to help me sell my course that I worked so hard on? Have I got a discovery for you? The Great Discovery not only has a place for your course, but a network of affiliates that are eager to sell your hard-earned course creation. Want to make a little more money so you can build your course or invest in yourself? Opportunities for all this and more await you at The Great Discovery, or go to tuepodcast.net/discovery for more information. Once again, that's tuepodcast.net/discovery for more information about how to join The Great Discovery now. This is an Undiscovered Legacy production and proud member of PodNation TV Network. Hello, Skoob believers, and welcome to episode number 96 of the Undiscovered Entrepreneur Getting Across the Start Line. And it's me, Skoob, coming at you whatever device you happen to be listening on. Okay, just a really quick announcement before we go too much further. I just joined, Blue Sky, which is, it's kind of like Twitter or X or whatever. It's starting to blow up really big, so I wanted to get on that bandwagon. So if you want to join me on Blue Sky, go to tuepodcast.net/Blue Sky, and you'll get my profile there, and follow me. That would be great. Okay, so today we are talking to Joe. Now, Joe is a talented illustrator and surface pattern designer who transformed her career path after being medically retired from the London Police Department, and now is running a successful Etsy shop and Paperly UK that ships specialty papers worldwide. Now, after receiving the diagnosis of autism and ADHD, dyslexia, Joe found her true creative calling and is co-authored in Beyond the Ordinary. Now, if you remember a couple episodes back, I had another woman that was on the show who also co-authored Beyond the Ordinary. I'll put that into the show notes if you want to listen to that episode. Now, this book is featuring stories of neurodivergent creatives and entrepreneur women. Now, something really exciting about Joe, too, is she is an accomplished curator who once orchestrated an art exhibit in Jerusalem's Old City, bringing together artists from across Israel and successfully selling their works in this historic setting. And without further ado, let's listen to Joe. Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneur potential? Are you ready to break free from all the barriers holding you back? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, your first step in getting across the start line. I'm your host and guide, Skoob, and I'm here with one mission: to help you overcome the obstacles standing between you and the start of your adventure. Whether you're dreaming of launching a startup, creating the next big app, or turning your passion into a thriving business, this podcast is your launch pad. Together we'll navigate the challenges, overcome hidden boundaries that stop us from starting, and learn how to overcome them with the help of others and experience them right along with you. So are you ready to take that crucial step to transform from aspiring to inspiring? Then let's get across that start line together, right here, right now, on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. Salutations, Skoob believers, and we are here again with another amazing entrepreneur. Today we're here with Joe. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. I really appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right. So I have one kind of semi-serious question to ask you. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Are you a Skoob believer?
Absolutely, I'm a Skoob believer.
All right. Thank you so much for being a Skoob believer, Joe. I super appreciate you. All right. So right here at the very beginning, I'd like to get a little bit of background about who you are, what your entrepreneurial adventure is, and how you actually got to cross the start line in your business. It's
a bit of a long story, but to put it into a nutshell, I really struggled after university to get a job. My degree was in graphic design and illustration. But due to my undiagnosed autism and ADHD, and I'm also dyslexic, I really struggled to understand how to get a job. So I didn't do very well. And I went from tumbleweed, from one suggestion of someone's job to another suggestion of someone's job. I spent 7 years as a police officer in the Metropolitan Police in London, which didn't serve me very well at all, because I'm very, very creative, and it's in my blood to be creative. And I really went down a wrong path. And then I actually got medically retired because I got so burnt out from doing that job that I developed chronic pain, and it was discovered that I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So wasn't able to work again. So I started doing my own thing in my own time and started up my own greeting card business. And so that became quite successful. And we got our greeting cards into John Lewis, which is a department store in Oxford Street in London and in Brent Cross. And slowly, I started getting back into art and design and the things that I loved to do again. I also got married during that time to my lovely husband, Danny. And I've got 4 lovely stepchildren, and I've got 2 grandchildren now. But at the time that I had my business, I struggled again because I developed chronic migraines, and it's been going on until last year, which was actually about 9 years. And it was only through discovering that I'm ADHD and I've got these different disabilities that I could actually understand that I think in a different way. And so I decided that I would take the medication that they were prescribing me for the ADHD, and miraculously it really helped with the migraines as well. So after I started on this medication, I thought to myself, wow, I think I could start working again. So I've now, with these diagnoses and getting the help and support from the UK government with an award, and also from the local community with support, and also from Mandy Nicholson, who's my neurodivergent coach. She's been helping me, and she's been helping me to start up my own business. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm finally becoming an illustrator and designer, and I'm focusing on surface pattern design. And the other thing that I do is I own a Etsy shop, selling handmade and specialty papers. And that shop is called Paperly UK, and I sell worldwide. So if you want to check it out, then you can. Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll definitely have a link to your Etsy shop in the show notes.
Okay.
That way, if anybody wants to check it out, all they have to do is go into the show notes, click on the link, and they'll find your Etsy to see what you have to offer. You've had a lot of different jobs and different experiences that most people have. I mean, going from police officer to creator to business cards, and then to an illustrator to an Etsy shop. That's amazing. That's quite the feat.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey. I've learned so much, especially in the last sort of 6 months doing Mandy's course. She really understands neurodivergent people because her children are as well, and she is as well. So she really understands, and that's really something that is very important, I think, when you've got a coach or a therapist, that they really do understand autism and an ADHD, because it's very easy to dismiss a lot of these things and end up gaslighting people, which I've had experience of as well. So yeah, so it's really great. And we're actually writing a book together now, me, her, and 29 other people, which is called Beyond the Ordinary, and it comes out later this week. So it's quite
cool.
exciting. Yeah.
What's the name of the book again? I'm sorry.
Beyond the Ordinary.
Beyond the Ordinary.
It's about neurodivergent people and creative, and how our stories, and we've all got a chapter each, and she's also weaved in all kinds of self-help throughout that book as well for neurodivergent people.
Awesome. So by the time this episode actually airs, that book will actually have been released already.
Yeah.
So let's do the same thing. Let's have a way to be able to get that book. Is it going to be available on Amazon, or where's it going to be available at?
Yeah, Amazon and Kindle as well.
Okay, so I'll try to find a link to it so we can put it in the show notes as well too. Okay, and we'll get some of your great work out there. That's amazing. One thing that I really experience when it comes to not understanding your situation, I think that's one of the most frustrating things for me. If I don't understand what's going on around me or what's actually happening around me, it gets super frustrating to me if somebody doesn't tell me what's going on in their head, or if I don't even know what's going on in my own head. It gets super frustrating because you're all over the place. You don't know what to understand, what to trust, or anything like that. So I can understand how that could get super frustrating for you. But it's nice to have somebody help you out. Finding a coach that actually understands your situation, maybe even going through the situation that you've been through currently, gives a special perspective about how you think and how you can move on from there.
Yes. Yeah, she's got a way that is very nurturing as well, and the way that she makes herself available for video calls 3 times a week with us, with a group of us, and we each get an opportunity to speak and ask questions. It's fantastic because when you're an illustrator or freelancer, it can be a little lonely, and unless you've got a community that you chat to about these various things, there's not really anyone to ask apart from Google or ChatGPT.
Right.
And so having someone who's had that experience, she's worked in corporate businesses, she's managed all kinds of big businesses, and so she's got that knowledge, and she could be working in that arena, but she doesn't want to. She wants to help neurodivergent people who are creatives. So it's very nurturing.
I have a special place in my heart a little bit for illustrators and artists in that realm because my daughter is actually an animator.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so and she also makes homemade dolls.
Oh, okay.
And it's amazing to see where she definitely didn't get that from me. I'm a stick figure guy. So that's all I can do. But yeah, I mean, especially when you're doing something on your own, when you're just a solopreneur, it can be lonely. I mean, you're by yourself. There's not too many people around you to actually talk to. So it's very, very important to find a community of people out there that understand you, are doing things that are similar to you. So you have someone to talk to, maybe get some information from, get some feedback from maybe on your work. That way you can improve yourself. And maybe you can help them in one way, shape, or form too. So getting a community, whether it's just a Facebook community or an online community somewhere, very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, the other girls on the course, we all cheerlead each other on. Someone gets something in a gallery or something, or they get a sale of a painting. We're all like, yeah.
Yes.
And that is very encouraging. Not really had that experience of work and being encouraging like that. So it really helps with the motivation and staying on track and accountability, which are all things that are challenging for ADHD. And so yeah, it's a really great facility that I've got doing this course.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. So let me ask you this quick question is, what do you think stops entrepreneurs in general from getting across the start line in your experience?
I would say generally for other people, fear. One of the massive things is the fear of security. So some of the top things you have are you need a place to live, you need food, you need to pay the rent, and jumping into doing something unknown and you're not even sure if it's going to work is scary compared to knowing you're going to get a paycheck every Friday. And I'm in a fortunate position that I don't have that worry because I do have a small pension and I'm on some disability, which gives me enough. And then my husband supports me with the rest. And so for me, that doesn't really come into it. But for me, the thing that stops me is the perfectionism side of things.
So how did you experience that? What was that like?
I've always been a bit of a perfectionist. I think sometimes it can go alongside neurodivergence. For me, it borders on the just CD, where just doesn't feel right until you've just tweaked that design a little bit more, and then you realize 3 hours have gone past, and actually you shouldn't have done that for 3 hours because you weren't getting paid for those 3 hours. And it's that kind of thing. And I'm still struggling with it, to be honest. And I am having some therapy at the moment by somebody who is autistic and ADHD themselves. And so it's it's the best therapy I've ever had. And she's talking to me about this subject specifically and saying it's important to not be judgmental or critical about that, but just to be aware of it and just to be curious as to why it might have happened or why it's something that's you feel that you need to do. And so I'm thinking about, where does it come from? Why have I developed this? So, but yes, I think the tweaking of designs, I just want to do a bit more, just want to get it just right. That really does waste a lot of time, even though it comes out with something great, but I've spent far too long doing it.
I notice a lot too, and my daughter actually tells me a lot about this too, is we are our own worst critics. We really are. I mean, because we want things to be right. We want things to be perfect before we send it out into the world, and then we start getting feedback from it. But I really feel that getting your smallest viable product of whatever it is that you're trying to put together, then putting it out there, and then getting feedback from it, and then tweaking it to people, what people say, hey, this looks great, but maybe if you did this, and just getting some feedback that way. That way you're actually getting feedback from your audience, from the people that have been looking at you and finding out what they think and then making the changes. Because if we wait, we procrastinate, because that's what I've noticed too, is perfectionism and procrastination end up being two of the same thing.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be perfect, we want it to be perfect, we want it to be perfect. Okay, now, like you said, it's been 3 or 4 hours. We're not getting paid for this at all until we get a product out there to sell. But if we put something out there first, that's good enough. I had a guest that was on not too long ago who says B- work is good enough, right?
Yeah.
Then you put it out there, then you start getting feedback from it. So it does stop us a lot from what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I think Mandy, actually, my coach, she says 80% is good enough. Get it out there. It's okay. Just get it out there. But it is so hard to actually do. That's the challenge. But I think the awareness is becoming more and more, and I'm starting to do it. But the more that I'm doing that, the more anxious I'm getting about putting it out there. So there's sort of a double-edged sword to it. Still got to work through on that one.
I've noticed when I start putting things out, like my thumbnails for my YouTube videos and things like that, when I start finding myself trying to tweak things and saying, okay, we got to move this, we got to move this. Nope, I put my hands up there. No, I notice that I'm doing this. I'm just going to send it. And then I just send it. Sometimes if you could catch yourself doing it, that means you're at that point where it's okay to put out now. So that's what I do a lot with my podcasts, my editing work, my YouTube thumbnails and things like that. If I catch myself starting to tweak things and taking more time doing it, that's when I send it.
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of goes into my tagline too of my podcast. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. We're doing things now while we're thinking about it, because if we wait too long, we start changing things. We start tweaking things. We try to make it perfect. And really there is nothing 100% perfect about what we do out here anyway, right? So let's just send it out there and see what happens.
That's right. I mean, I've got a little phrase that I've got it on the wall saying, you'll never know everything before you start, so learn along the way. I try and remind myself about that. Yeah,
that's definitely goes into jumping off the cliff and making the airplane on the way down. That's But yeah, that's good words. That's good. We all really need to think about something like that too, where if it's good enough, send it out there and then we'll see what happens next.
Yeah. One of the projects that I'm doing at the moment it was to do with ADHD, autism, and eating disorders or disordered eating. And I wanted to have an accessible document. So I asked them, can I have an accessible document for that report? And they said, oh, I'm afraid we don't have one. And I was like, oh, she goes, oh, that's a good idea, though. Maybe we'll get a graphic designer. And then I was like, I'm a graphic designer. And then so I got the commission to do it. And then I had to learn all about providing accessible documents. And there's a huge thing under there that I had no idea about. So I've been on quite a steep learning curve the last few weeks about learning that as well.
Yeah, but it's because we volunteered for something like that. Now we're actually doing a huge learning process that we could actually use later in our entrepreneur adventure.
Yeah.
whether it be for somebody else or for ourselves. It's
Yeah.
something that you can do to improve things as you go along. And I love the fact that you took advantage of that situation and just raised your hand and say, "Hey, I can do this." Even though you probably didn't know you could do it at the time, let's do it anyway and see what happens. And I love
Yeah.
the fact that you gave somebody else the idea for their company to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. That's true. It should be coming out soon. I'm hoping that people will see it and read it. And it's an important learning. It's basically about understanding about this disordered eating between the overlap between autism and ADHD, and it's about questions that autistic and ADHD people prioritize for future research. And so rather than just having people who aren't ADHD or autistic choosing what they think, they've asked us, which is great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of podcasts that I listen to, they talk about pitfalls. What's your worst pitfall? Pitfall this, pitfall that. I like to look at it a different way. Do you have a pitfall that you've had happen to you, but you're glad it happened to you? It was a proud moment because of this pitfall or problem, I had this positive thing happen to me after. Have you ever had anything like that before?
My pitfall, I suppose, was not being able to get a job. And so I decided to move to London to see if I could get a job. And I was in a house. I didn't know people in the house. And randomly, I met my husband in Starbucks.
That's amazing. That's
That's
awesome.
quite a nice one.
I like that. It didn't work out the way I thought, but I met the love of my life. That's what's funny. And I don't think I've ever talked about this before, but my wife, I was a server at the time at a Denny's restaurant, and I was going through some rough times at that particular point. But she left her phone number on the table, and on a random just thing, I called her, and we've been married for 15 years. So,
Oh, yeah, lovely.
but you just never know what could happen in life, even though these things aren't exactly 100% positive or it feels really bad at the time. It's probably happening to you for a reason that's going to be good on the other side of that.
Yeah, there's always good and bad that comes out of things, and just got to embrace the good and step over the bad.
There you go. You've talked about several accomplishments that you've put together already. Which one of these, or do you have another one that's your greatest accomplishment you think of up to this point?
Sure, what my greatest accomplishment is. What comes to mind was a great accomplishment. I'm not sure about the greatest, but when I went out to Israel for a year doing voluntary work. And when I was out there, I did a art exhibition. I orchestrated an art exhibition and curated it and got artists from all over Israel to bring their work in. And I had to choose which work. And we painted the place. And I got volunteers to come and help me to paint the huge room. And yeah, we got people coming in and buying this artwork. So that was very cool. I really enjoyed that.
Well, you know what? That's fantastic. I can't even imagine something like that. Being able to be the spearhead the way for this art expedition. You should do that more often. I think if you for the local area out there, I bet that would be great. It just get some local artists out there, put it together, just like you did in Israel, right?
In Jerusalem. It was in the old city as well of Jerusalem. It was magical.
You need more magic.
Yeah.
You need to do more magic like that, I think. That would be fantastic. So that's actually a fantastic accomplishment. Thank you for sharing that. So you know that I told you earlier that most of all of my listeners are new entrepreneurs that are just getting started. So if you came across an entrepreneur or anybody for that matter that's talking about starting their business, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Get a coach.
Get a coach. Like it.
Absolutely. There's nothing that beats having someone who's got more knowledge than you and more expertise and skills or more life understanding about things than you. So wherever you're at, there'll be someone who's got that much more knowledge, and pay for it because they're worth it and you're worth it. because that you can go onto YouTube and you can learn lots of things, sure. But if you've got someone who's focused on you for us, even if it's an hour a week or something, focused on you, focused on your goals, can keep you accountable, especially if you're neurodivergent, then it heads you off like a springboard into your own business, like nothing else.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some great advice. Skoob believers, I am a coach, just so you know. Okay, so, but yeah, having somebody to point you in a direction, because a lot of times you'll get to a point where, okay, I'm here now. What do I do? What's my next step? And you don't know what your next step is, and YouTube's not going to be able to tell you what your next step is. So why not get somebody that's been there and done that, ask them what the next step is, and not only would they give you the next step, but probably even how to accomplish that next step so you can move on in your entrepreneur adventure. So yeah, great advice, getting a coach. Always look into that, especially if you can get one that's in a similar situation or understands who you are. That's why you want to be careful about how you choose your coaches too. You can't just want to choose the first one that comes across. You want one that you could understand each other's and understand each other's faults and things of that nature.
Yeah, you have to do like a discovery call or something. Make sure that you vibe with that person so that it's not awkward or weird, or it's the same with the therapist. You don't just find a therapist and go along to therapy. You check them out and make sure they're okay and they've got the qualifications they say they have. And the first conversation feels natural and good. It's very much the same with a coach. You've got to make sure that they've that much further along doing things in their business, because you might get to a stage where actually I know what they know now, and you have to go to someone further on in their own businesses. They may have multiple businesses or branches of businesses. So
fantastic. All right, Joe, what I'd like to ask you here, and I ask this of all my guests in my podcast, where do you see you and your company in the next 6 months? What are your 6-month goals?
I currently don't have a website for my Paperly UK on Etsy. And even though Etsy is absolutely brilliant, I think that I do need that backup of my own business on my own website there. So that's what I'll be working on, as well as my own graphic design, my own illustration, surface pattern design work. So that's what I'm hoping to focus on in the next 6 months now.
All right, awesome. So what I like to do with you, Joe, if it's okay with you, is I like to follow up with you in 6 months, have another interview just like this, and see if we got that website up, see if we have some new illustration work happening, and we're going to hold you accountable, not just me, but to all my Skoob believers out there. So you talked about accountability earlier. This is the big accountability thing for you.
Yeah, brilliant. I think, and that's exactly what a coach does. So well done. Yeah, brilliant.
All right, Joe, this is what we're going to do here is this is your time to shine. This is your time to advertise yourself. How do we get a hold of you? How do we look at all your awesome stuff? Okay, ready, set, go.
So I am a member of the Association of Illustrators in the UK. So you can find my portfolio of work on there at the moment. I'm also on Instagram under Joe Phillips Designs. I'm also on Facebook, Joe Phillips Designs. Infinity Designer. And yeah, you can just contact me. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so you can be able to find me. I'd love to connect.
All right, Joe, this has been amazing. I really love hearing your story and where you come from and where you're going to. You got a lot of great things going for you right here, and I think it's just going to get better from here on out. Just keep going.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, Skoob believers, thank you for another episode, and make sure you stay tuned for the wrap-up. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joe. What a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed talking to her. But just like most of my other episodes, I do have several takeaways I think that are just amazing. What seems to be your biggest setback can lead you to your greatest breakthrough. Joe couldn't find work in her field and struggled for years. But this led her to move to London, where she met her husband in a random Starbucks encounter. Life's obstacles often guide us exactly where we need to be at that exact time. So make sure we let that flow. We got to let that happen. Also, your unique challenges can become your superpower. After receiving the diagnosis for autism, ADHD, and dyslexia, Joe did not let these limits define her. Instead, she embraced her neurodivergent perspectives, channeled her creativity, and now is thriving as an illustrator while helping others through her book and accessible design work. Understanding yourself is the first step in unlocking your true potential. So a lot of times we need to dig deep, even though we're having these problems. Sometimes we get these diagnoses. Let's use those to our advantage. And with that, I want to say thank you very much for another episode and an Undiscovered Entrepreneur Get Across the Start Line. And I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
And there you have it, future entrepreneurs. We've taken another step towards our journey to get across that start line. Remember, every great business starts with a single idea and the courage to pursue it. You've already shown that courage by joining us here today. As we wrap up this episode of the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, I want to remind you that the start line isn't as far away as you might think. With each bit of knowledge you gain, each fear you face, you're getting closer to launching your dream. Until our next episode together, keep pushing, keep dreaming, and most importantly, keep taking those steps across the start line. They'll all add up to big strides in your entrepreneur adventure. This is Skoob, your guide across the start line. Remember, your future is waiting. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. Do you find yourself faltering when speaking in public? You definitely know what you're talking about, but you just can't seem to get over the horrific fear, and imagining people in their underwear is just not working. Whether you're gearing up for a big presentation or just looking to improve your daily communications, Leslie Fiorenzo is your go-to resource for mastering self-promotion, facing your audience fearlessly, and communicating with authority. Don't miss out on your opportunity to elevate your game. Contact Leslie Fiorenzo now, or go to tuepodcast.net/speak to step into the spotlight with confidence. Your adventure in public speaking mastery starts here and now. Don't wait to get your voice heard. Book your free consultation at tuepodcast.net/speak to start your adventure in speaking excellence today.